Welcome to The Artist Politic. Today we sit down with Sera Cahoone at the Sunset Tavern. She's a songwriter and performer. We talk about her concern for the LGBTQ community, how to write a song about tragedy, and Tracy Chapman at Red Rocks. Sera Cahoone, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here today.
Of course, yeah. In the sunset,
Yeah,
on Ballard Ave.
love it.
You aren't from Seattle. You're
Nope.
from Colorado.
I am.
And your dad, I've been reading about you. Yeah, I've been reading
Yeah.
about you. Colorado, your dad, a dynamite salesman?
Yep.
That's like the perfect tee up for a folk country
Yeah, I know.
songwriter.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous.
It's
Yeah.
kind of over the top.
Yep.
Yeah.
He would, we would have like dynamite in my garage a lot of times
Really?
growing up. I probably shouldn't even say that because I could probably
It's like sample
get him
sales?
in trouble or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would always go to, you know, we'd have to go to these conventions every year, you know, with all these like dynamite people and try to like, I don't know. I would always go run around. He would just let me go do whatever. So I'd bring
Yeah.
a friend and we'd run around and get in trouble. But he would be trying to sell dynamite and like, I don't know. It's pretty bizarre, but
Yeah.
and it's kind of hilarious when you think about it. I'm like, yeah, he did sell dynamite.
Right. So, tell me about songwriting. No.
Oh, songwriting.
No. Songwriting. The
It's
floor
gonna
is
be
yours.
the death of me. No, I'm just kidding.
What are your songs about?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, a lot of them are, they're about a lot of different things
Of course.
in my life. I tend to write best when I'm actually happy and the sun's out, which is strange because my music is so depressing in a lot of ways, or like sad.
Is it
So-
depressing?
Well,
Let's go with melancholy.
let's go melancholy.
Yeah.
I think people are like, hey, Sarah, are you okay? You know, sometimes.
Do they really?
I mean, no, I'm just being
Okay,
kind of dramatic. But I do think that it's just like I feel like my songs, I mean, they're about love. A lot of them are feelings, or I tend to. That's just the songs that I like to listen to a lot of times. I love like sad folk songs in general. I mean, Jim Croce is like one of my favorites. John Denver. I mean, it's like, you know, just like, when I go to Tracy Chapman, when I go to like listen to music, I feel like that's what I listen to. And I just gravitate towards writing. It's not always like necessarily totally about me, but a lot of them are, you know, feelings I've had, or, you know, other people that I know are going through.
Yeah.
But it takes me quite a long time to like get my songs figured out. Like I will have a song and it's like I'll have a great chorus and I have to like somehow make sense of the song. And sometimes it really takes me a long time.
Yeah.
And it's really annoying.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and
Right.
I know it's just, sometimes I wish I could just sit down and write out all these lyrics that's just like, and then I put a song to that. I've never done that before.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just always, you know, everybody has their different ways of songwriting.
Right.
It's really interesting to talk to other songwriters and how they do it. And, you know, a lot of them do it actually similar to me, where it's like, you know, they kind of do the music first, which I always write the guitar and I sing. I come up with a melody and then I, you know, try to piece it together. But I think it's taken me, you know, it always takes me quite a long time in between records, just because I think it just takes me a while to piece the songs together and to make sense of the songs in the right direction I want to go with them.
Yeah.
But, sometimes I'm just like, I need to like just throw it away for a minute and, you know, come back to it in 8 years. No, I'm just kidding.
8 years. That's letting it breathe for a while.
Yeah. No, not that dramatic.
No.
But.
So if so many of your songs are about love and the different facets of love, why are so many of them melancholy? Is there a sadness attached to love?
I think so. You know, I think like love is like, to me, it's like, I mean, everybody goes through. I am a very sensitive person, and I just get like emotionally. I feel like all relationships go through ups and downs, and I tend to gravitate more towards the down. But you know, relationships in general can be very melancholy and very great, but it's like a deep, like longing and love that you have for someone.
Yeah.
But trying to like, it could also be slightly torturous, you know? I mean, but it's like very special as well.
Yeah.
I think I just always gravitate towards a lot of that feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I have some happy songs too, but I think it's, I tend to, I don't know why I do, I just like that. And I guess I am a sensitive sap, so.
Yeah. You just like to kind of live in that place?
I guess. I mean, I feel like I try not to live it in my actual life.
Right.
I'm a pretty like upbeat, happy person, but you know, I think when I need a minute and I just have some sad times, that's what I don't know. I just like that.
Yeah. Maybe it's a way for you to like get those feelings out so you can be a happy person in real life, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Would you say that writing songs is like your therapy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. It is very, yes. You know, it's very, I would say drums as well. Like there's something about just
in a
going
different
and
way,
playing
right?
the drums and like getting all that like out. But definitely especially if I'm upset or bummed, and I'll just start playing guitar, and if I start writing something during that time, it's like extra special, you know.
Yeah.
But it's definitely like I don't know what I would do without it. I mean, it's such a part of me that's always been there.
Yeah. So, Mudhoney is often credited with being the first band to play on the top of the Space Needle.
Yes.
This is not true. They're credited with it, but it's not true. You were the first artist to play.
I was.
Atop of the Space Needle. So
we're
setting the record
straight. Mudhoney. Well, they were the first band.
Oh, sure.
So.
Right. Okay.
I mean,
splitting hairs.
No fighting needs to happen here. But yeah, it was. We were the first. It was Jay and I. It was crazy.
How are you with heights?
I'm fine. Like I'm actually. When I went to go do that, I actually thought that it was in the main glass area.
Yeah.
Which I did do, I think their 20th anniversary up there. They had a party up there. So I was kind of unsure, like I kind of thought that's where it was going to be. And then we get up there and they're like, do you need harnesses and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I was looking at Jay and I was like, are you serious? Okay. And they're like, no, it's like up on the thing. So I was like, okay, that's cool. And it was like, thankfully, a really beautiful day.
Yeah.
But, you know, we had to climb up a ladder and then like hand up my guitar.
Whoa.
And then we get up in this little area and John Richards is up there and they like have monitors up there. And there was something like really cool and peaceful about it that I was not scared. It was like, when you, if it would have been windy, I probably maybe would have been a little more scared.
Yeah.
But it felt like, you know, when you're in an airplane or, you know, the ground is flat, you can't see any definition of buildings.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it was like.
Whoa.
So that was kind of trippy.
Yeah.
And I guess I am not, like, really scared of flights. Heights. Flights.
Yes.
So that was, like, it was just weird. It was like we were playing a live show, you know, there.
Yeah.
Because there were monitors and, I don't know, it just was bizarre. It was awesome. It was like the coolest experience I've ever done in my life, for sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I can imagine.
I was super, like, happy to be a part of that and, like, thankful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's surreal.
It's crazy.
It's super cool.
Yeah. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Oh, God.
I'll take that as a yes.
I'm the worst at this. The worst.
Well, we'll do the slow lightning.
Okay.
This show is always ends up being the slow lightning.
Yeah.
It's never. I just call it the lightning round because it's kind of a ridiculous title.
Okay.
It gives me a chance to ask goofy questions.
Great.
like, what's the most memorable meal you've ever eaten?
Wow. I'm going to say Spinace. Have you been to that place up on Capitol Hill?
Not in a long time.
It's like they have this amazing
Yes.
butter sage pasta. It's all handmade.
Yeah.
I love pasta. I
Yeah.
love Mexican food too, but
Yeah. Oh yeah, my
It's
buddy
the-
Jared used to work at Spinace.
it's so delicious. So I guess that's where I'm
Yeah.
going to say right now.
Spinace, solid.
Yeah.
Is there a movie or TV show that helped shape you as a child or a young person?
Wow. I don't think. Let's see. The first show that came to mind, which is hilarious, is Three's Company. Because like I just feel like my family, we grew up in a pretty funny environment, and there's three of us, and that show was always on, and I loved that show.
Yeah.
And I look back to that show sometimes, and I'm like, nah, it's kind of weird.
It's
But
definitely a weird show.
it's so weird.
But it's awesome.
But for some reason, that just came to my mind. It definitely didn't shape me, but maybe it did shape me in a weird way. You know,
Maybe
like
so.
more than I know.
We'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
That's good. What's your favorite thing to do between sound check and set time?
Well, I tend not to go out and talk to people because it's just too stressful. A lot of times I will eat a meal. It's really boring. I mean, I don't think I have anything
What's your go-to tour meal?
like go-to tour. I love a good salad, you know, with some chicken on it before I play. I can't eat too much
Yeah.
because then, you know, start burping and doing weird stuff
Right.
on stage.
Right.
But yeah, I love a good, awesome big salad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some parts of this country where that's not the easiest thing to find. Like,
Yeah, it's not.
Right?
So, you
Yeah.
know, sometimes a Big Mac. You know,
Right.
no, oh my God,
No. Yeah.
that'd be rough.
Let's talk about your song Ladybug.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I was going to sum it up, but you're going to tell it better than I am. What's that song about?
That is a pretty depressing story. That's about my cousin Tawny that was murdered by her girlfriend and in Utah. It was just a very awful, confusing time for, I think, the whole family. I didn't really know what to do with it. As you know, that you don't especially don't expect like two women to be doing that to each other as much. Although it is very common.
Yeah.
Just as much almost.
Have you learned more about that
Yeah, I mean, I've
since
definitely.
then?
Yeah, I think it was just, you know, I think that, like, it's not like people don't ignore the signs of if it's two women as much, but it does, you know, it's just not as common, although it is, I'm learning, you know.
Yeah.
But
Right.
yeah, it was just a really confusing, awful time for my whole family, and I mean everyone, all of her friends, and
Yeah.
I feel like I didn't really know what to do with it, and so I wrote a song about her because I just felt like that was something I could do,
Yeah.
and I didn't really even know like what if I was going to release that song because I was like, this is like really depressing, you know,
Yeah.
like this is how am I going to be able to talk about this, and like. It was funny because I wrote that song and I was trying to figure out the right drum beat for that song. And I remember when I wrote the drum beat to it, I was like, this is like it felt happy, you know,
Yeah.
like poppy song.
Yeah.
And so I struggled with that too because I'm like, it's so weird because it's kind of like rockin' and like poppy. And then if you actually dig into it, it's like really sad and awful.
Yeah.
But I felt like it weirdly worked because it was such a awful dramatic thing that happened that, you know, there's a lot of angst and a lot of anger, and so it just having the two together, they blended so well. And you know, it was a thing where, you know, I talked to her mom. I didn't, you know, even releasing it, I was like, should I do this? Like, is this like going to be hard for everyone to talk about?
Yeah.
But you know, I'm really thankful I did, and I love that song. And you know, I I love, it's not always the easiest to sing, but I do really love playing that song a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just, awful.
That's a really tough
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, music-wise, it's so interesting. I was listening to that song yesterday, and like we were speaking about before, so many of your songs are melancholy feeling, and they're about love, but the melancholy side of love, and then you write this song that has this really terrible, tragic story behind it, and you found like it's one of your more upbeat songs as far as I can tell.
It's really interesting.
Do you have a guess of like where that energy came from?
I think I was angry, you know. I was definitely angry when I was writing it. So I think that's like where it came from. I just started singing these words, and then I was trying to find the right way to like write a song about her or lyrically, and her nickname is Ladybug, so that was why I called it that. But it was, I think that I was really angry and still am angry, but like that song really helped to just that's, especially with the band, that's like definitely one of my favorite songs to play, because it's just, the drums are so cool, and it's so, and I'm like, so that's kind of, I think, where that comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you think, I'm sure you've learned more about this kind of violence since that incident. Yeah. What do you think the awareness is in the LGBTQ community as far as that kind of?
I think I think that we're all aware of it, I think it is growing more in a like, everyone has, like, it's like, I've definitely known a lot more of incidences that people have gone through, and I think we're all aware of it, much more than, I don't know, it's just such an interesting dynamic, and blah, blah. You can just cut that part out, but anyways.
No, I'm sure it's a tough and kind of confusing thing to even talk about.
Yeah, and I think it's like, especially if you're in that situation, it's never easy to talk about it. Even being queer, anyway, it's not an easy thing to. You believe that that your partner's going to do that, or even people that are close to you would never think that that's actually going to happen.
Yeah.
Any relationship really. But I think people need to make sure they listen to the signs and be aware of, really looking into what's happening, because it most likely is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that people in that situation maybe feel like it's more difficult to ask for help if it's a same-sex relationship?
Yeah.
Do you think there's a stigma there or something?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it's just hard to ask for help in general and admit that the person you love is doing this to you, or you're scared too. I think people are scared.
Sure.
So I think it just really just depends on the relation. I don't think it has to do with being queer or not, but I think it's just, it is, I don't think it's easy to ask for help or admit that things are actually going wrong. And you love this person, so you forgive them, and then you just the cycle keeps going.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh, that's such a tough.
I know.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
So, we talked the other day a little bit about like politics in music, and maybe I like to put social justice in there too as a differentiator. It seems like that song Ladybug is maybe the closest you've gotten to writing about something topical like that.
Yeah.
Is that now that you've gone there, like, do you think that you could write music with a little bit more of a political leaning or social justice leaning?
I don't know. I tend to not really write like that.
Yeah.
But I surprise myself sometimes, so I never say no. But
Sure.
I don't think, that's not something I'm like striving to do.
Yeah.
I think people need love songs and sad songs in this time of need as well. So
They do. They do.
I'll probably just try and keep giving people that.
Yeah. 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 It's a tough thing to ask, but we've done a few of these episodes now, and I've asked a version of that question, to almost everybody that's been on the show, and everybody has a similar answer, which is like, it's not really what my art is about, and and I see my art as, maybe a refuge or like a different, giving beauty to the world, or
Right.
something like that, and I fully believe all of that. And I don't mean to. I'm realizing that the setup to this question is like, now you have to answer for every guest that's been on the show.
Yeah.
So no, but I can't help but wonder, like, where is our Bob Dylan?
Yeah.
Do we need somebody like that right now, do you think?
I mean, I'm sure that it would be helpful. I don't think it would be hurt, it wouldn't. I don't know, that's a really hard question to ask. I mean, I know that there are people that are writing political songs. I feel like people are just so, like, it's just changed so, I mean, of course it's always been this way, but it's changed so much since Trump.
Yeah.
And it just keeps getting weirder and weirder.
Yeah.
But it was like this, it's like we're just totally going backwards, it feels like. So it's been, I think it's more, people are starting to like, musicians and artists are starting to more be like, no, like we really need to do something.
Yeah.
Whereas before it's like, yes, we had to do something, but we did, have more, during Obama it didn't feel as like, but it does feel like it's like definitely this scary place where it's like, what can we do?
Right, there's more of a sense of urgency now,
what a lot of musicians are doing, including myself, is just trying to do more benefits or try to raise money for immigrants or anything really, just to try and like help how we can without necessarily writing a song, but giving that money to the people that need it, which are a lot of people. Yeah. And organizations. So it's kind of like, I mean, we could be playing like every week, really, but we also need to make a living too. So it's kind of a thing where you got to kind of pick what you want to try and help. But I try to do that as often as I can, at least. Yeah. And I think a lot of musicians are, getting together and what can we do? And it's like you pick an organization or pick something and raise money for that.
What are other issues that are important to you?
Obviously, I'm queer, so that's a very important issue to me. I think I've always been very out, pretty much, and I want. I know what that meant to me as a kid, knowing, someone was gay or anything. Like I think that's, and it's like I feel like my rights it's a scary place for that as well. Yeah. And trans community, very scary. So those are, I'm very, want to do all I can to like help trans kids and the gay community, the queer community. It's including myself, but I feel like I'm pretty old at this point. I've been out for a long time, but I think, especially for young kids, it's a very scary time to be doing that. Yeah. And coming out, and especially trans kids again, like what they have to deal with, it's scary. Yeah. It's a scary time for them.
So you came out in the 90s, we'll say?
Yeah.
What do you think the difference is between the 90s and now for, let's say let's say a gay kid like yourself coming out now versus the 90s?
Well, the 90s, it was scary. It was way scarier back then, actually, just in a because there weren't, like, it wasn't as, now it seems much easier to be, like, it's more common kids, like, in high school are, experimenting, and a lot of them are, bisexual, or I think it's definitely more common.
Yeah.
And so back then it was very scary, like, to be known as that, but what else am I gonna do,
Yeah.
So I mean, it's changed a ton.
Yeah.
And I think that, we've had pioneers help us to, it's like we just slowly build and build and build. And
Yeah.
gain that confidence and gain the, taking over the world.
Right. Yeah. Who was that pioneer for you when you were a teenager? Who helped you kind of like have the confidence to come out?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, I think Tracy Chapman, to be honest, was a huge influence to me. I mean, when I was in high school, I was very kind of confused, and then I knew that I was like super gay, but I didn't really know what to do. And I went to a Tracy Chapman concert at Red Rocks, and that was the first time I had looked around, and I was like, whoa, there's like so many gay people here.
Yeah.
And it was it really inspired me, and kind of like, I was like, I'm not alone here. Because back then it's like, barely had the internet, like not many like social media, any of that stuff.
Right,
so it was like really
resources.
lonely, and so that was like a big moment for me. And I think that her songwriting and everything about her really has made me who I am.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. I can just imagine little you like at Red Rocks just having like this.
Oh my God, it was. I was like, there was like 2 girls in front of me, I think, kissing, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was like one of the best shows I've ever seen. So
that's awesome.
And obviously, the Indigo Girls are pioneer. I mean, they're just amazing.
Who you recently opened for,
it was so inspiring to play with them. Like, and they're just so like, I think they've been doing it 30 years, and they're just so like awesome, so badass. Yeah, like professional and just.
Oh, I bet.
Man, it was such an honor. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get to hang with them at all?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, like they they'd be hanging out, and like so nice to us. And, yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah. Well, what do you want to do? What small thing do you want to do next? Now that we've lit the fire. Yeah. What's the? You don't have to conquer the world, but what's the next?
I think just like keeping doing benefits or doing. I mean, just trying to make a small difference any way I can. I mean, I think I'm still trying to figure that out, you know. Yeah. But just working on being a good person, and you know, trying not to just only focus on myself and focus on others, and just try to keep making art, making people sad and happy.
Making people happy through sadness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, Sera Cahoone, thank you for coming through.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
That was a delight.
Yeah, this was great.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.